In der Vergangenheit wurde Flüchtlingen das Mitspracherecht bei Diskussionen über ihr gegenwärtiges und zukünftiges Leben verweigert. Das Ergebnis ist oft eine kurzsichtige und unwirksame Politik. Mehr über die sinnvolle Beteiligung von Flüchtlingen, unser heutiges Thema von Nyimas Bantaba, erfahren Sie hier. Herzlich willkommen zu Nyimas Bantaba. Mein Name ist Nyimas Bantaba. Auf der Bantaba-Bühne beschäftigen wir uns mit verschiedenen Themen und diskutieren mit Leuten von diversen kulturellen Hintergründen mit dem Fokus auf Migrations-, Integrations-, Frauen-Empowerment und Kultur. Historically, refugees have been denied a voice in discussions about their presence and future lives. The result is often short-sighted and ineffective policies. Meaningful refugee participation and inclusion of refugee voices in policy and decision-making has sparked centered discussions in the past years. It is not until a few years ago, maybe 5 years ago, refugee leaders took up leadership roles in policy and decision-making. This has sparked several talks in key points like meaningful refugee participation and inclusion of refugee voices. More on the topic, meaningful refugee participation on Nyimas Bantaba, and of course, among other pertinent issues in the next 60 minutes. My name is Nyima Bantaba. With me today in the studio, I have Shaza Alrihawi, board member, co-founder of the Global Refugee-Led Network. Welcome to Nyimas Bantaba on ALEX Berlin, Shaza.
Thank you.
Also, I have the current chairperson of the Global Refugee-Led Network, Amer Al-Khairi. Amer is also, or he is the chairperson of the board member of the Global Refugee-Led Network, joining us via Zoom, all the way from Leeds, United Kingdom. Thank you for joining us, Amer.
Thank you, Nyima.
Thank you very much. So, Amer, like I said, the issue of meaningful refugee participation has sparked a whole lot of discussions centered not just on meaningful refugee participation, but of course, inclusion of refugee voices. Now, when we talk about meaningful refugee participation, what are we talking about? Because now refugees are participating in policies and decision-making, but you guys are advocating for meaningful. What are you trying to tell us?
Thank you, Nyima. In history shows that refugees has been excluded in participating in the decision-making regarding the lives of refugees around the globe, unfortunately. So that's why the Global Refugee-Led Network, along with its 6 chapters around the globe, is advocating for meaningful refugee participation, which means that the refugees to be involved in the decision-making around their lives at all levels, and not to be just present as a box being ticked, because we believe as refugees that we know better our challenge, we know better the problems that we are facing, and we know better the ways that we can design and implement a solution. So the meaningful refugee participation has to be also inclusive, which means that has to include all refugees from all over the world, making sure that they self-represent themselves. This to include all minorities and vulnerable communities, to include the LGBTIQ, women, children, and people with disability. This is the voices that we get from refugees. They don't want to be excluded anymore. They want to be involved in the designing, implementation, and the also the monitoring and evaluation of any project or any decision being made around their lives. They say, nothing for us without us.
Nothing for us without us. I hope this is taken into consideration. Are they engaging you meaningfully now?
Sorry, I missed that, Nyima.
I mean, nothing about us without us. Is this happening? Are the stakeholders or policymakers including refugee voices meaningfully since you started advocating?
Nyima, it's a challenge. And if you look at the past where refugees were not included in any decision-making at any stage or at any level, of course, it's improving. Refugees, they have a voice at the moment at the global level, although it's very minor, maybe not very effective, but it's with the number of refugees increasing around the world due to climate change. I think UNHCR now is talking about over 102, 103 million refugees and displaced people around the world. The world has to listen to those communities, to those people, because we are part of this world. We are not just a number, and our voices has to be heard.
We are not just a number, and our voices had to be heard. One of the reasons why Global Refugee Led Network was founded, according to what I read, we would like to know, like, what is the objective of GRN? Like, how does it started? Why, of course, you've made mention of meaningful refugee participation, nothing about us without us, our voices need to be heard, and so on. But I believe there is more to that. How and why was GRN set? And what is GRN?
Okay. Back in 2018, precisely, I think the date was the 25th of June 2018, just over 80 refugee leaders from all over the world. They met in Geneva for the first ever global summit organized and led by refugees. Those refugee leaders, they figured out and decided that if we join forces, our voice will be heard and we can be more effective. So they joined power and forces to work on a long-term vision to ensure refugee policy is inclusive and effective. The GRN was born as a result of this summit to serve as a vehicle for refugee self-representation at all global and local regional decision-making. This includes political, humanitarian, and the development sector. As a global refugee-led network, our vision is to build a network of refugee-led organizations or initiatives to ensure refugees are making meaningful contribution to decision-making processes.
Thank you so very much. Making meaningful refugee participation through the process. Speaking of the process, Shaza, I would like you to dilate on the missions and what impact has this mission on the voices of refugees?
Hi again. Thank you for inviting me today, and I would like to say that our work is even started before 2018. It's actually in 2017, if we can say, where we, as some of the co-founders, met together in Geneva and decided to have the first ever summit to be organized, and then after that we have the GRN, or Global Refugee-Led Network. Mm-hmm. For your question, actually, our mission is to have the voice of refugees in all levels of the decision-making, and it's not easy, as my colleague said, and told you that if we would like to look if we had an improve, yes, we improve. But is it what we would like to have? Not yet, for sure. Our mission is to bring all these efforts and put them together to help the refugees to have their voices, and also to reshape and change the system for the refugees, to change the narratives about the refugees, and also to work hand by hand by other policymakers. Actually, our mission to be seen as equal partner, if we can say, not as beneficiaries, change this kind of narrative about refugees, and also to let the refugees have the seat in all and every table about their lives and affecting their lives. And this is how we are trying to work. Every time we try to include more measurement for the participation, is it meaningful or not? And we use our ladder, we use the ladder of participation. Actually, this is kind of methodology to just check if we are moving in the right way or not.
Apropos to just check if we are moving in the right way or not, talking about your missions, how has this missions been impacting the refugee voices? Like someone somewhere that has no idea about GRN, but of course, your mission is making an impact through your voice or advocacy. How is this going?
Yeah, actually, as a GRN Global Refugee-Led Network, as a board member, as people who are working in these initiatives, our role is to first to inform the community. So actually, the problem is that this community has no clue what is going on about their lives, what is the future, what is the decision made for them. So first of the impact that we are trying to bring as working as a bridge, if we can say, to bring the information from the global going lower to the local, and then bring the experience and the voices of refugee from local going up to the global. And in this way, we are trying to link the decision makers with the refugee who had the idea already about what is having, as we said, struggling with, what the problems. They just need the opportunity where they can put their efforts jointly with other actors to move forward. And this is our role so far. Yes, we had an impact. If you can look now, there is something about meaningful participation, where like 6-7 years ago, there is nothing about refugee to being included, not even participating meaningfully or not. But now we are still thinking that we have a lot to do, but we achieve that people see the key word, the key active role that refugees have, and now we are working to have more and more refugee-led organization.
Wow, congratulations on that, like on achieving at least something, because it's always not easy to set up something and working on it despite all the hurdles, challenges along the road, but still you achieve something, and I'm impressed you do that. Amer, I mean, you have also like some pillars, and I would quote, we have a voice, we have agency, let's change the system together. What voice do you have, and what system do you want to change?
Thank you again, Nyima. I think it's important to understand first the structure of the GRN. As the Global Refugee-Led Network, we have 6 chapters, which means that we have reached out to refugees and refugee-led organizations in 6 continents. As Shaza just mentioned, we have board members from each chapters. Usually it's 2 board members from each chapters, and the role, as Shaza said, is actually to bring refugee voices from the field, from the ground, from the displacement settings, from the urban settings to the global. And vice versa, the same, like to bring information from the global to the local as a commitment for the Global Refugee-Led Network, inform them of what achievements we have done, and get their advice on what can be done at the global level. So yeah, when we talk about voices, the challenges that refugees face around the world, they are vary from one continent to another. But of course, there are common problems and issues refugees are facing. For example, the freedom of movement, the problem of access to documentation. It's a common problem that refugees are facing. And again, with the problems of climate change, so many countries will disappear in the future, which will cause more displaced people and more people people with no documentation. And as a human right approach, every human being have the right to move freely wherever he or she wants. So our role is to bring those voices to the global level, whether it's through the international events that's happening, for example, the Global Compact on Refugees, the Global Refugee Forum 1, and the Global Refugee Forum 2, which is coming next year. And we are at the Global Refugee Network already started our preparation for those summits to make sure that we bring the refugee voices into their to those summits by having a refugee statement. As well as in many cases we have our own pledges that we pledge during those events, and we make sure that governments, states, stakeholders sign to those pledges to make a change to refugees' lives. Just while mentioning some of the important high-level or global events. I mentioned the Global Compact on Refugees, Global Refugee Forum. Refugees that were involved at the United Nations Executive Committee meeting last month, just last week. We had the High Commissioner Dialogue, where we brought refugee statements. Now, all our chapters, they are preparing for their regional summits. For example, last month we had the African Summit, where more than 60 refugee-led organizations and initiatives, refugee leaders attended those summits to bring different voices from different regions. And I believe that the European chapter, they will have their summit on the 17th of January coming, and so on. The role for the importance of those summits is to bring those refugee voices to the global, to make sure that we have a systematic change to include those refugees and not count them as numbers.
Yeah.
They are human beings. They have every right. Thank you very much.
I'm just going to take it from there, not just to count them as numbers, but see them as human beings, and they have rights to participate. That's amazing. I'll just take it up from there with you, Shaza. He made mention of GRN is active in 6 regions globally. So he spoke at a global length. I would like you to tell us, like at the local level, at the 6 regions that they are present in, which of the regions is this across the globe? And what are the main activities or objectives of this region? You are the chair of the European chapter. Now, tell us a bit overview of these different regions and what is their roles, and your role as a chairperson for the European chapter.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, actually, when we start our summit in 2018, when we design it, we bring everyone, and it's around 70 or 80 representative leaders from all over the world to come together to sit for 2 days to discuss their problems. During that time, we noticed that we have difference problem according to the regions, and we have at the end like common problems. Then we felt like we should organize our work on regional, if we can say, approach. So we decide to put all these common regions together. So it's ended up by having Asia Pacific region, we have Africa region, we have MENA region, we have European region or European chapter, we have North America region, and Latino America. Mostly those regions have similarity in somehow in their process and their asylum access and all of these things. So we try to make them as much as like relevant to each other. As we are working on the global, we have the global summit. Actually, we are working on the same procedures, if we can say, on the regional level. So each region, like let's say, as an example, Europe. For Europe, we have 28 states. We try as much as we can to bring the voices of refugees in the 28 of these states to come together. How we are trying to do so, it's by the summits as well. So what we are agreed is to have the global summit every 2 years, and the other years we have the regional summits, and these regional summits will feed for the global summit again. So it's like a live process. So first time we have the global, then we go and work on the regional. Actually, we had 4 regional summits before the GRF. So we prepared a policy recommendation as well. So when we went to the GRF last 2019 in December, we were having the policy recommendation from refugees from all over the world. Yeah. This is how it works. Now, because of Corona, actually, everyone is like affected by it, obviously. So we are now restarting again our normal life. So we start with these summits. We have the Asia, we have the Africa, and now coming is like Europe soon, and MENA, they are planning. And then before the next...
America too is planning for next year.
Yeah, and before our GRF, the global GRF, the second one in December 2023, we are trying to have all the summits, including the global one. How we are working, how this work, like on local, there is some organization we are opening as a membership. So each region has a membership form. They are applied through our membership. You can say, I would like to join, or through the summit itself. We have application, people applied and said, like, we are interested to join your efforts. Then they come together, discuss what is going on, then go back again. So for example, in Europe, we're trying to bring 2 persons from each country, including UK. Yeah. They will come together. They all active in their local level or national level. They will come together to discuss some themes that they agreed on it.
This is actually about the summit, which we're going to talk about later on as a question, and of course, why UK is a question, because Brexit and so on. But we will come to that. But before we go to that, Shaza, I want to ask you on the pathways of GRN, and I will quote again. Humans will always be on the move. I mean, I'm going to talk about freedom of movement and so on. So I quote, humans will always be on the move, but how we move depends on you. And I was like, okay, this statement. And I want to ask, how is this dependent on policies? You here, we're referring to the policies, right?
Exactly.
Policymakers and policies. But how is this movement dependent on policymakers or policies?
Sure. You know that the asylum law is come from Geneva Convention. So it started by 1951, and everything after is depend on this convention. So each country, each state, they have their law. Or refugee law or asylum law. Actually, the policies is so important, because if we change these policies, we can make more safe pathways, if we can say, for refugees. Now we see refugee would like to seek asylum, for example. I'm talking mainly on Europe because I'm more expert in that. So people would like to seek asylum in Europe. How that happened? It's happened when they are, as a policies open up, like, okay, we will have education opportunities. This is one of the pathways where people doesn't want to put themselves in a risk to just pass the sea to be there. Other way, we are trying to say it's not enough to have this kind of quota, like each country have a quota. We need to increase the quota, and this is something else we are working. Beside to our work in advocacy, we are working in ATCR with UNHCR. So we said we need to increase the quota. Yeah. Also, we ask for more opportunities, like, as we said, health pathways, sponsorship programs. All of this is opening up work maybe one of these. And I see, if I have to say something, now Germany, they are trying to have their law, the immigration law, to let people be away from this kind of dangerous, risky way and channel them in a more safe way. So this is kind of pathways we are asking for, especially now we are working more and more on sponsorship, because this is also a community efforts where the country or the states had nothing to do with it, and it's just from the community to support their governments as well. And I think in this way we are moving forward. People are trying to help because they see people suffering and they feel like they have to do something as a responsibility sharing.
As a responsibility sharing, we are moving forward. Amer, I would like to shift you back on the visions that you actually talked about, and I quote, is to bolster the vision. One of your visions is to bolster refugees, the ability to meaningful refugee participation or contribution in decision-making processes. And I'm interested to know, how far are you in attaining your vision? Or did you already attain your vision? Or what is lacking?
Yeah, I just want to make a comment about pathways before I move to your question. Sure. Refugees, they tend to risk their lives when they hear like all those smugglers promising them paradise around the world, whether it's in Europe or not. So legal pathways make it so clear for them to actually what they're gonna see when they move from one country to another. Although, like as the refugees, we believe, based on human rights, that people have the right to move freely, but legal pathways can actually save refugees' lives who are sometimes desperate to seek solutions to make sure that they will be able at one day to feed their kids and children, ensure that they have access to healthcare, access to education, and so on, as Shaza said. How far are we? Still, I believe that it's a long journey, and yeah, we started it. We were one of the organizations who started it as the Global Refugee Network, but I believe that generations ahead, they have a lot to do. As I mentioned, for example, at the moment we are preparing for the next Global Refugee Forum in 2023, December. And throughout the summits, we are trying to focus on all the needs and priorities of refugees around the world. We will have our pledge, and we will make sure that states and stakeholders, with the support of UNHCR and all our partners, to make sure that those demands and priorities are met in a way that's been designed jointly with refugees and implement jointly with refugees. The challenge is so big, Nyima. You can imagine refugee-led organizations around the world, they have big challenges. Fund is one of them, finding funding. Can you imagine like a refugee-led initiative in a specific refugee settlement in Africa or elsewhere, where those refugee leaders have no access to documentation, they don't have documents, yeah? So they will not be able to register their refugee-led organization or initiative, and therefore they will not have access to funding, and therefore they will not be able to serve their fellow refugees. So the challenge is big. We are trying with the help of our partners and of course the support of our refugees on the ground to fully understand and design together the solutions that can serve the generations ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Shaza, you want to add something on that?
Yeah, actually. We also, through our work with this domain, if we can say, we faced a lot of challenges, but also we are trying to ease the way for other refugees to have more access, and for sure to make sure that the refugee voices and ability are a poster. We had some trainings because we would like to help refugees to know how it works in this level of policy. We have skill-up training where we help refugees to know more about how to ask for funding, what is the legal things behind their status, what the differentiation between many other definition, how to work, what is the language that's used in this kind of platforms, because it's not about English or other language, it's about the language itself, the vocabulary, the words they use it for each thing. It's not easy actually to understand everything. So what we are trying to do to maintain and for sure to make the refugees are really included is also helping them by this, and also help the policymakers to understand the skills the refugee have. The refugee is coming with a lot of knowledge, which should not be ignored, and talent. It's not, it's not like people just vulnerable or beneficiaries, as I said before.
They call it asyltourismus.
Exactly, because I'm always say we are equal partner.
Yeah.
For example, I am a refugee myself. Before I became a refugee, I was a UNHCR staff for 9 years.
Yeah.
I was respected. I was taken in a very good way.
High level.
Exactly,
stuff.
And then out of sudden,
it's actually interesting from refugee protector to a refugee.
Exactly, it's really big shift, and this is how I have this passion towards this, because I know what the difference. I was the one who thought that refugees are really vulnerable, they don't know anything, and then I'm trying to help them as much as I can. But now I feel like, no, I am really powerful. I just need an opportunity.
Exactly.
I need an access, and then I can solve all my problems. Just help me to go together, not to depend 100% on you. So this is where we also try to work on double, if we can say, approach, where we are helping refugees to understand all this kind of policy environment, but also helping the policymakers to know that those refugees are really skilled. They know what they do, but they just need the opportunity and the access.
Yeah. They just need the opportunity and the access. Refugees are potential partners in development. And I love the statement that you said, we just need the opportunity and the pathways, and we know what to do. So this is important, and I'm glad that you guys are really advocating and you've came too far. And now, Shaza, the issue of integration has been and is still a huge discussion. Let's talk about a national level. At the European level, or we look at Germany, where we both lived in. Integration, they said refugees must integrate. When you immigrate to a different country that became your host country at the end, and at some point integration becomes like a force to do, either by law or not, whether you like it or not. Because, for example, in Germany, if you're not integrated, you can't be part of the society. I mean, if you're not integrated, for example, in the language, you won't be able to be at certain spaces. Now, my question is, how inclusive is integration?
Yeah. Actually, first of all, the word integration became a lot negative word because it's interpreted as something from one way, which is refugees should always forget about all their life, the past life, and just became as the country they are coming from, they are host them in. So, for example, I have to forget about all my culture. I have to forget about everything almost. Just don't use my language, don't use anything, and then just be integrated in this. And I think the integration, the meaning of integration is to be able to functioning within the new community regardless if you are 100% like as a Germany, for example. I'm not German. Maybe I speak a little bit, but not. But again, I can be part of it because I'm respecting. Yeah. I'm trying to do it in a way which is not doing any harm for anyone. Yeah. But again, you cannot say don't eat this or don't wear this, or it's not your business. The problem with the integration, to be honest, is that it's not seen as a two ways of process, because the host community also should know a little bit about the people who coming to them, what the mentality they have, what the values they have, what the culture they have. They didn't come from jungle with nothing. They all also have values. They have so many things. And if we know that, first, the ignorance will be away. So the kind of the fear and all of these things will be disappeared. Because if I know who is coming to me, I know better how to receive them. I know better how to welcome them.
And how to approach.
Exactly. And if I am welcoming in a good way, the guest will be also good. Instead of being afraid, always feeling not unwelcomed, or trying to do something in a bad way, or so the good interpretation is also something we have to think about it. Like refugees do this, they didn't meant to do something harming for you, because maybe their culture is a little bit different. Just understand why they do this. So inclusion, the program of integration, it's coming always from the host country and from the policymakers even. Mostly it's like the men, if we can say old men maybe, just sitting behind their bureaus in their offices. They
deciding.
They decide, you know what, they are coming, they have to have this, this, this.
Actually, when this person maybe has never traveled outside.
Exactly. So what we need to have is, and how we have the inclusion instead of integration, if we can say. We can bring refugees or people from migrant background, people who traveled, people who were in this position. Like, just make yourself, like, imagine that you are a refugee in Syria, for example, how you will be treated, or how you would like to be treated, to be forced to speak a language you never had any communication with it. Out of sudden, you forget everything. So I think just bring people to be in this decision-making on this kind of policies from a little bit background, where they have a little bit information about what is meaning to be forcibly displaced, or to mean migrants, at least. You just live your life. Is it in Germany is improved? Yes. We in Europe, we tried, we were talking to the decision maker, to governments, to states, and they asking us, because they felt the integration is failed. It's not working. On some stages they said, like, come on, there is something wrong. Yes, when you have a literate person, elder illiterate person with a university level in a class, how come it works? There is so different, you know, levels and different way to treat them. So I remember we were giving a lot of advice to have it in this way or the other way, putting women, for example, some community doesn't want to be with men. For example, why we didn't design something which is helpful and then attractive for the community to be integrated, to be coming together. Everything by force is not okay, seriously.
Everything by force is not okay, and no one should be forced to go against your will. And I love the statement that you made, inclusion instead of integration. I think decision makers and policy makers should really, really look at this. And apropos inclusion, Amer, what approaches is GRN taking in making sure that all refugee voices are not just inclusive, but heard and implemented by policymakers?
Yeah, thank you. First of all, as the Global Refugee-Led Network, we never claim that we represent all refugees from all over the world. This is impossible. But what we say is that the work that we are doing is actually for all refugees. And throughout the summits, throughout the focus groups, throughout the consultations, we make sure that we get as much voices as possible from refugees from different parts of the world. Also, as Shaza mentioned, the membership for our network is open for everyone. Any organization, any initiative, whether they are registered or not, any person who believes that he or she is a refugee leader can go into our website, fill in a form. It's a very simple form that I want to join the network, advocate on behalf of my community, bring voices. The membership is open for everyone. And at the international level, we have succeeded in building and maintaining a very good relationship, I think, with all stakeholders, to include the United Nations agencies, many governments who's been really supportive, believing in the cause, seeing the future. And also we have always one-to-one bilateral meetings with decision makers, with states, trying to reflect on the refugee voices, that this is what they want, this is the way they want it, and we advocate for it. Yeah, thank you.
Shaza, you want to add something?
Yeah, actually, also we are trying whenever we have anything to bring all the voices, as he said, Amer, and also the groups. So we try whenever we have anything to have disabled voices, because we know that the needs is really different from person to person. Yeah. And if I'm not disabled, I never think about being not able to speak, for example. So. Small example, like I know that through the asylum application, you have to have translator. And if you don't know that this guy is deaf or he's not able to speak or whatever, you will bring someone who's not able even to understand. So you need to bring someone. So all of this, if I'm not thinking about those people or have those people with us, like LGBTIQ, what they need, I don't know. I'm not, but maybe they need something. I never, think about it. Women, children, everyone. So this is what we are trying always to have, like. The AGD approach is always there. When we have application, when we have more board member, also we're asking someone from elderly, from diversity background, which is not all of us Syrian, not all of us like from one community. All of this we are trying to bring to our work.
Yeah, super. I love the idea or the fact that GRN is also trying to be as diverse as they could, as well inclusive in terms of involving both refugee leaders and individual refugees across the whole globe, and of course where you guys are active, in the regions that you guys are active. Shaza, I want us to look back. You guys made mention of, like, in 2018 was the official first summit that you guys convened in Geneva. What has been your best takeaways since 2018 to date? It's been 6-7 years now?
Yeah, it's almost 6-7 years when we start this kind of job.
4 years, less than 5 years.
No, actually, 2018, the summit, but we started 2017.
So let's officialize it. From 2018 to date, what has been your best takeaways?
My best takeaways, if we can say, it's that we can. If we willing to, we can achieve. Before 2018, no one thought that refugee will be sitting on the same table discussing
with policymakers.
With the policymakers.
Or with the UNHCR High Commissioner.
Exactly.
Most of us has a photo with him already.
But this is, again,
not just a photo. I'm not sure if he's listening or taking or implementing what we are talking about, but he's always open to taking photos. So it's a challenge not to just take photos, but to take notes and implement them.
Exactly. But again, the Jilan, the lady is...
Gilan, yeah.
Yeah.
Deputy.
Exactly, the deputy mentioned the work of GRN many times in her speech.
Yeah.
So that means we, again, had an impact on their work. And I think refugees now seen as an actor. And yeah, we're still not seen as, equal actor, who is not seen as like so important actor, but now the shift is to work with the refugees in migrant-led organization. This is something I have to say, if we are not believing in our skills, in ourselves, we'll never achieve it. And this is where I feel like, yes, we can, and we did it so far.
Yes, we can. Yes, we did it so far, and we will get there. Das ist das Nyimas Bantaba Sendung, falls Sie jetzt uns das Sendungshaut. Es geht um sinnvolle Beteiligung von Flüchtlingen. Mit mir heute im Studio ist das Netzwerk Global Refugee-led Network. Ich spreche gerade mit den Vereinmitglieds- oder Co-Gründerinnen. Und leider ist es, not leider, aber die Sendung heute ist eigentlich alles auf Englisch. Und wir freuen uns. Ihr könnt uns auf Social Media folgen, auf Nyimas Bantaba TV, Instagram, Twitter oder einfach ein Mail an uns an nyimasbantaba@gmail.com, falls ihr Anliegen haben, Fragen haben oder auch mitmachen möchtet. Amer, now let's look at your individual roles. As the GRN chair, Global Refugee-led Network chair, what is your role? Like, what are you doing? For someone as a layperson like me, okay, that's the GRN, that's the chair, but what is your role? What are you doing?
Yeah, thank you, Nyima. I've been elected as the chairperson for the Global Refugee-led Network last August 2022, during the board members retreat that happened in Sydney. During my term, it's a 2 years term. During my terms, first of all, I want to see that the work that we are doing at the international level, at the global level, is actually reflected to the local and have a direct impact on refugees. And I think this is something, because at the global level, when you talk about policies, it's lots of politics involved, and sometimes it takes really long time to reflect on refugees' lives, where I believe that there are always ways where we can reflect the work that we are doing at the global level to the local. And we've seen so many examples. I think during the last few years of the Global Refugees-led Network's work, we have managed to prove to the world and show to the stakeholders that refugees have knowledge, refugees have talents, and it's all about opportunities. I think opportunities is the key. If we give people opportunity, and this is something that we are advocating for, is that actually there are opportunities there and refugees are grabbing it. They are not just waiting for someone to give them the opportunity. They are partners in this world, and they have a role to play. So I want to reflect the work that we are doing at the global level to the refugees at the local level. I think this is a mission that I set for myself, and I believe with my team around the globe, with all other partners and with the stakeholders, we can do that, make that happen.
Thank you very much. And I think not just taking opportunities, but creating opportunities as well. Apropos creating opportunities, I think this is what one of the reasons the summit, the European summit, which is going to be held in Berlin, because refugees are taking leadership role. But I'm not going to talk about that because Shaza is the expert here. She knows it best than me. Shaza, first tell us about your role as the chairwoman of the European chapter. What are you doing? And then we look at the summit exclusively.
Okay, thank you. As I'm not alone, I have other colleague. As responsible for the European chapter, actually what is my role and our role, if we can say, is to bring all the voices together, to map all these initiatives together. And because we believe that one hand is not clapping alone, and this is what we try, to completing each other instead of competing each other. And actually, unfortunately, this environment is so much about competing.
Mm-hmm.
So as
but competition actually makes you stronger.
Yeah, somehow, but
it makes you, boom, I need to win.
Exactly.
But working together is also important. It's more achievable.
Yeah, a competition is good when the opportunities is wider, but when the opportunities is really limited, then the competition might be harming.
Yeah.
So what we are trying to do is, whatever the opportunities is, let us completing each other, working together. So I can give you whatever you are missing, and you can give me where I need you to support. So this is our role as a coalition, if we can say European chapter, responsible people. Trying to also give the knowledge, give our contact network that we had on the global level to the people who are working on the regional or the local level. So this is how we can summarize our work and our role as a European chapter.
Now let's talk about the summit. The European chapter is organizing a summit, which you are leading, of course. What is it about? Why are you bringing over 100 refugees from all the 28 countries? And of course, England, which is now Brexit, which has exited Europe. Why? And what's happening?
Yes. Actually, as we said, we are trying to help each other. And we also believe that everyone had the skills, and we also living in a different states, but also our problem sometimes is close to each other or in a common. So the idea about this summit is to bring all those refugees. Actually, we are counting UK because people who are living there, they still affected by this relationship within the EU. So refugees felt isolated. Why you are not counting us? We are refugees. We still consider ourselves in Europe. We are still affected by so many policies in Europe in general. So we said, yes, we are trying to give also and share our knowledge in Europe with the UK refugee-led organization. So the idea is to use this kind of event where we are mapping this kind of initiatives where people are working for their community, for their people, and they are trying to help them. Bring them all to share their knowledge, to share their successful stories, might be duplicated somewhere here or there. Also the failures maybe, so we can learn the lessons without going through this lesson as well. So this is the idea, where we can bring all together, sitting together, trying to have a roadmap towards like the next 3 years, if we can say, how we can work all together, what kind of gaps, where is the barriers, what the problems that we are facing, and how we can work together to improve the life of our community.
So that's actually the objective of the summit. So of course, there is a whole lot of expectations towards the summit and after the summit. After the summit, what are we looking forward to? Like, what's happening? What are the mechanisms that you think would be set up? And, okay, these are going to be the follow-ups we are doing. What are your targets?
Okay. Actually, this is the objective of our summit, is to bring all together, to have some recommendation. And then the methodology that we are using is first a mapping survey. So we had a survey. We're trying through the survey to map what is kind of initiatives we are having now in Europe in general. And then after that, we will choose the applicant who interested to attend the summit according to our capacity. So we are thinking now to have 2 persons from each country, but people are really asking for more, and we will see. And we are happy to have more, to be honest, but the funding...
Based on funding.
Exactly. Funding is playing the role here. So we are trying afterwards to bring those people to be 2 days, 17 and 18, here in Berlin, sitting together the whole day, discussing the gaps, solutions, and all the channels that we would like to work on. And we didn't decide the themes, the problems. We asked them. So this is how we are meaningfully engaged, even the applicant for the summit to be part of the designing.
So that means Global Refugee-Led Network is not just engaging policymakers on meaningful participation, but it also meaningfully engaging refugees and refugee leaders as well.
Exactly.
That's amazing. Clap for yourself. No, you don't have to, but we clap. Okay.
So, yeah, so refugees choose some topics, which is they felt it's like the most topics. We try to take the first 5, and then we will work on that.
Yeah.
Through the 2 days, they will try to see the gaps, the opportunities, the solutions, and they try to have a policy recommendation. Afterwards, the 3rd day, actually the 19th, we will bring the stakeholders and the policymakers from all over Europe, if we can, who is interested, and if they want, they can. So we are inviting all of them to be part of the discussion, where we try to share with them what we had and to plan with them kind of activities and programs towards the next 3 years, sitting together the objectives for the next 3 years and see how we can work together, collaborating to move forward with what we are struggling. And this is how we are trying to do. And as I said before, this will go to the GRF again. So it will be like recommendation for the GRF.
Alles klar. So more information can be found on the GRF Global Refugee Network website about the summit. So about the application process and whatever you want to know more, follow them on social media, Global Refugee Network. Follow their website for more information. We have like 3 minutes to go, but before we go, Amer, like we have talked so much about meaningful participation, inclusion, challenges, pathways, etc., etc. Final question, and on your concluding remark, what do we need? What is lacking? What does GRN want to make sure that, yes, we finally got to our targets? This is what we're looking for. What is lacking?
I think, in my opinion, so many things lacking, but I would focus on solidarity. I think it's a key. We all know that there is nowhere in the world which we can call it safe. The latest Ukrainian crisis showed a great example of solidarity, how the world, especially Europe and the countries who have financial power, how they united in supporting the Ukrainian refugees around the world, while there are other refugees who are living in refugee settlements for the 3rd or 4th generation. So we need solidarity. If we work together, all of us as partners, we can bring solutions.
All of us as partners, we can bring solutions. I just want to add that inclusion. The environment is not as inclusive as we thought. It is that my own opinion. As long as we want solidarity, as much as we want support and whatever, if it's not inclusive, forget it. So we're going to continue advocating on that. Shaza, your final words in a minute.
Actually, we are all human, and no one have an umbrella on his head. I used to be UNHCR staff. I am a refugee myself. Political will should be a key, because we saw it, as we said, Ukrainian situation shows that when the world would like to do something, they can.
Yes.
And I think no one can be sure he will not be a refugee one day. So just think about it, then go to the political will and try to make it as human as you can.
No one is sure whether you will become a refugee or not. One good example, my former president is now a refugee, a full president, so be aware, it could be you next. Das war's von unserer heutigen Sendung von Nyimas Bantaba. Wir haben über das Thema sinnvolle Beteiligung von Flüchtlingen gesprochen. Bantaba ist ein traditioneller Treffpunkt, wo Leute zusammensitzen und diskutieren und unterhalten unter sich. Der Name leitet sich von einem großen Baum ab. Der Begriff stammt eigentlich aus Mandinka, meiner Muttersprache, werde aber meistens in Gambia und Senegal gesprochen. That was all we have for you on today's edition of Nyimas Bantaba. We've actually talked about or looked at this topic, meaningful refugee participation and, of course, inclusion of refugee voices. With me, I had the co-founders and board chairpersons of the Global Refugee Network. That's all we have for you. We're great that you've been part of us in the past 60 minutes. We look forward to another edition of Nyimas Bantaba. My name is Nyima Jadama. Thank you for joining us. Until I see you again next month, it's a ciao from me.